Hey there, dear YouTube audience, and welcome to a very special video on my channel. I'm of course the one that loves you out there, the loveGIANT. Now, we are all gamers, and I'm pretty sure every gamer has asked themselves one question at one point or another, and that being, what is actually my absolute favorite game of all time? I sure have, and for the longest I couldn't pinpoint it directly. My gaming life started with the SNES. I joined during the winter lifetime of the system, so I didn't have many games for the system back then, but out of the games that I had my absolute favorite game of all time back then, and that was Street Fighter 2 and obviously also Super Street Fighter 2, as you can clearly see right here. The most games I own are for the PS1. I adored and still adore games like Spyro, which is still my absolute favorite jump and run franchise, by the way. The original Spyro trilogy for the PS1, as well as Crash and Final Fantasy VIII, which, interestingly enough, I bought because one of my favorite games for the SNES that I never owned but rented from the video store was Final Fight. This one also had Final in the title, so I thought that it is similar to Final Fight. It wasn't, but I loved it nonetheless. One of the best misbuys I ever made, for sure. Now, all of these games that I've mentioned so far, Final Fight, Street Fighter, Spyro, they all have two things in common. Number one, they are all considered retro games at this point, and number two, even though they are like 20 to 30 years old at this point, you can still pop them in your system today and just have countless hours of fun with it. I would say they stood the test of time. You could also say they are like fine wine, they just get better with time. Bars. By now you have already seen the title of the video, so let's stop dancing around the big nemesis in the room and let's talk about my personal favorite game of all time, and that being Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. The amount of love that I have for this game is just impossible to put in words, and that is also one of the reasons why I chose to make this video. If you've watched my channel for a bit, you see that I put out a couple of randomizer runs for this game, and that is also what rekindled my absolute undying love for this game again, Randomizers. Now, I can say without any kind of nostalgia bias that I personally think that Resident Evil is not only the best Resident Evil game in the Resident Evil franchise, or the best PS1 game, or PC game, or GameCube game, or whatever system it got printed on. I can say that it is the absolute best game that has ever been created, no matter the system. Now, I wanted to share with you my absolute love for this game, and how can I do this? Well, maybe you already see the length of the video. You can see I have a lot of stuff to say about this game. We're not just gonna cover like the basic stuff like gameplay, story and stuff like that. We are diving in deep. We're going into all the different paths you can take in this game, all the different enemies, the weapons, all of the stuff that you can unlock, how much replayability is there. We're going into advanced strategies, like maybe stuff you haven't even heard about, like spread shooting, like quick shooting and stuff like that. This video is supposed to be the #1 source of everything that is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. We're also going to take a look at the speedrunning scene, streamers you can check out, YouTube channels you can check out. Literally everything that is there about Resident Evil 3 is gonna get covered in this video, or at least that's what I'm trying to do with this. Now, with that being said, let's jump right back into Raccoon City and let's get into why Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is the best game that has ever been created, and what a better topic to start with than with the general premise of the game. For facts first, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is a sorta third-person horror survival action game by Capcom, and obviously the third installment in the Resident Evil, or Biohazard as it was called in Japan, franchise. You take on the role of Jill Valentine, which is a returning character from the original first Resident Evil title, and attempt to flee the city. Here's another discrepancy in the title of this game. See, here in Europe and in America, this title was called Nemesis, which is fitting, but in Japan it was called Last Escape, Which is even more fitting, because you fight your way through multiple different zombie-infested locations in Raccoon City. The Uptown District, Downtown, the Police Department, Restaurant, Raccoon Press Building, parks, gas stations, waste disposal factories to escape from the city, because towards the end of the game, you get the news that the government has decided that there is no way to save Raccoon City anymore. The only way to get the situation under control is to nuke the city to the ground, ignoring any potential living residents. Pretty evil for the residents. Sounds bad enough if zombies would be the only problem you encounter, because there are a variety of enemies that make your escape just a little bit harder. Zombified dogs, sometimes burning, sometimes not, but always trying to get a bite out of you. Different type of drain demos that probably escaped Umbrella's laboratory. Different type of hunters that can, depending on your health state, decapitate you with one good swing. Giant mutated spiders that have the ability to poison you. Mutated worms that leech onto you. And if that is not everything, there is also a giant, not Alaskan, not bull, but worm, perfectly called the Gravedigger. Lovely. Also known by the Resident Evil community as Cut Content Digger, but we get into that a little bit later. This guy appears about 2 times in the entire game with the objective to put his digging ass in his first name at the final encounter. That means killing him. Whether you like it or love it, you can flee from him the first 2 times, but at the final confrontation it is either you or him. And then there is the namesake of the game, Nemesis. What Mr. X was in Resident Evil 2 is Nemesis in Resident Evil 3. The only problem is, in Resident Evil 2, you were basically bound to the RPD for about 85% of the game. In Resident Evil 3, you have the entire city at your disposal. And with Nemesis being basically unkillable, this guy will randomly show up and chase you down. No matter how often you send him to the ground, he will always come back to try and kill you. The only thing you know is, he is unstoppable, he's fast, he's strong. Later on, he also has a rocket launcher, and he only has one mission in his life, making sure that the escape is scratched out of the game's title. Which means he's trying to kill you. So far for the general content and premise of the game, let's go into more specific details. To round up the story of Jill trying to escape Raccoon City, there are a variety of characters she meets in the game that Jill interacts with, all with their own unique quirks, goals, and missions. The role you take in this game. We all know her from Resident Evil 1. She stepped aside in Resident Evil 2 to make way for Leon and Claire, but in Resident Evil 3 she came back, with an outfit that is pretty simple but just downright awesome. Better voice acting than in Resident Evil 1, even though it's obviously not hard to accomplish that, as well as more badass than ever.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
Rescuing you is becoming a full-time job.
Carlos is one of the soldiers that Umbrella sent in to rescue civilians, according to him. He takes an interest in Jill at the beginning, trying a couple times to flirt with her to no avail. You also take control of him about halfway through the game when Jill gets infected with a T-virus by Nemesis. After a bumpy start, considering Jill's distaste for anyone affiliated with Umbrella, Carlos becomes the one and only person Jill can rely on to make it out of the city alive.
I'm one of the supervisors. That's all you need to know.
Wait!
Our main antagonist in the game, if you count out Nemesis of course, you first encounter him at the cable car, where he reveals himself as part of Carlos' civilian rescue team. Throughout the game, depending on which routes you take, you get more and more information that something seems off about Nikolai, or might I even say... sus? Sorry. Again, depending on the routes you take, Jill sees him killing Murphy, saying he was about to turn into a zombie, despite you can clearly hear him shouting, "Wait!" And Carlos encounters him downright murdering Tyrell. Telling Carlos that Nikolai is one of the supervisors, that's all you need to know. And I get into further detail on him later on.
Mikhail!
Jill, get out of the cable car now!
Mikhail, wait! Don't!
Get out of here! Hurry!
Mikhail is the leader of the UBCS Delta Squad and came into the city alongside Carlos and Nikolai. You first encounter him at the cable car, where he appears to be in a critical condition as he laid on the seats bleeding profusely, and he seems to be in a delirium. When you come back to the cable car to fix it, with not all but about 2 to 3 necessary parts, you trigger a cutscene which depicts Mikhail fighting off a horde of zombies that approach the cable car. Jill escorts him back into the cable car after he successfully killed off the horde. His story ends when you've repaired the cable car. Nemesis shows up, Mikhail orders everyone to exit the cable car, he stays in the same wagon as Nemi, trying to kill him off. As he runs out of ammo, Nemi is about to give him the same treatment he gave to Brad. Mikhail pulls out a hand grenade, pulls the pin, and boom goes that dynamite. Sacrificing himself in order for Jill and Carlos to, hopefully, make it out alive and eliminating a serious threat while he's at it.
I had no idea another guinea pig was still alive. What are you doing? Have you lost your mind? Sometimes it's easy to forget one's loyalties. Just like that traitor.
Tyrell had a very prominent role and was one of my favorite side characters in the remake. One of the only things the remake did well, but in the original Resident Evil 3, Carlos encounters him at the hospital. 2 things can occur depending on your route. Either he puts a gun to Carlos' temple, thinking he is in cahoots with Nikolai, more on that on the story part, and gets blown away after opening a safe containing a bomb. Or he gets shot by Nikolai. He survives this encounter, and while Nikolai and Carlos banter for a bit, he pulls the pin of a hand grenade trying to kill Nikolai, who manages to dash out a window, killing basically just himself in the process. And even though he explodes in both instances, his body seems to be extremely resistant, because after that he is still in one piece.
Kill me! I finished. Not human.
So there are 2 encounters for Murphy, also depending on the route. In both ways you encounter him in the Umbrella Research Facility or the sales office. In one instance you hear him shouting, "Wait!" followed by gunshots. As mentioned before, Nikolai gunned him down, saying he was about to turn into a zombie, so he eliminated him. We get a bit more background on him when we go for the second approach. This time Carlos is with Murphy. Murphy is in the process of turning into a zombie, begging for Carlos to kill him. Carlos is reluctant as Murphy is one of his best friends. After approaching Carlos, Carlos opens fire with his M14 and guns down Murphy. Jill consoles Carlos afterwards, assuring him that he did the right thing, putting Murphy out of his misery. Another recurring character from Resident Evil 1. Star's #1 coward makes an appearance at the beginning of the game, sprinting out of a basement chased down by zombies. After a little love me tender scene in the bar, he is saying that he is coming after Star's members. He refuses to go into specifics, however. The last time you see him is in front of the RPD, where he approaches Jill severely wounded. All of a sudden, the namesake of the European and NA version of the game, Nemesis, appears and tentacles Brad, finishing him off for good. Guess he should have stayed in that helicopter.
We've got to get out of here.
What? What do you think you're talking about? I just lost my daughter out there! How dare you tell me to go back outside?
The first NPC you encounter in the game, right at the start in the warehouse. He said he lost his daughter and the last thing he'll do is go back outside. He proceeds to lock himself in that trailer thingy. After you've completed the RPD, you can go back to the warehouse to find zombies devouring his carcass. In his trailer, you can find some supplies as well as his diary. This is a special one. After going back to the inner city, you can hear a female citizen crying for help. You see her getting chased by zombies. When you go after her, she was trying to reach the warehouse. You see her lying dead on the ground with a zombie towering over her. After you have eliminated the threat, Jill checks for a pulse and confirms our suspicions that she is in fact dead. There are theories that this girl could be Dario's daughter, that he mentioned in the beginning, but Since he said that he just lost his daughter, and even if she was bitten, he seems to be the kind of character that would have dragged his daughter with him inside of the trailer regardless if she was bitten or not. So that girl being his daughter is pretty unlikely. Furthermore, he mentions in his diary, quote, "My wife, daughter, mother, my entire family has been killed." Technically speaking, Marvin only appears as a corpse in the RPD, right at the spot where you have to shoot him in the original RE2, where he turns into a zombie, making the timeline on when RE3 and RE2 respectively take place rather confusing, because he doesn't look like a zombie at that point yet, so Leon and Claire might still be roaming at the RPD somewhere when Jill arrives? Maybe. Voice crack. The girl that shows you the password to gain access to the Umbrella Research Facility, Sefsprin, Adraville, or Aquacure. The reason I feature her is because in NPC Randomizers she can appear as a potential model, but most importantly, look at that neck. Damn son, she never skips neck day. Much neck. Such wow.
Thanks, you saved us.
I couldn't let you die.
Is it you?
Are you ready to finish this?
Barrier makes an appearance when you've taken a specific choice towards the end of the game. Though they pull a Voldemort and never mention his name at the end, it is obvious that it can be none other than everyone's favorite
Jill Sandwich.
Devourer. Now that we have met the characters, let's take a look at the story, shall we? I already mentioned the overarching plot in the beginning, so let's dive a bit deeper. After we escaped from a desperate situation in the beginning, we meet a fellow survivor, Dario, who mentions that he has lost his daughter and would rather starve to death than go back outside. He locks himself in his trader thingy. Jill searches the area for supplies and heads out. Outside we get a glimpse of the situation. The entire city is in disarray, people getting eaten alive and zombies dominate the landscape. After meeting up with Brad in a bar who is struggling to BGs, staying alive, we head to the RPD where Brad meets his demise by a terrifying tyrant that Brad apparently has met before, as in the bar he mentions that it is coming after STARS members and that there is no escape. Nemi tentacles him in front of Jill, ending Brad's story. After Jill grabbed her lockpick from her office and leaves the RPD, she runs into Carlos, a mercenary hired hand for Umbrella. His team was sent in to rescue civilians. Even though she has a strong distaste for Umbrella, given that they are the ones that caused all of this mess, given he's the only guy alive and is heavily armed, she trusts him. She also learns that Carlos came into town with some other guys. She decides to put her bias aside and joins them. After all, having more people with you generally boosts the likelihood of surviving and escaping. Strength in numbers. The way you encounter Carlos is either in the Raccoon Press building, which gameplay-wise is worse because you waste more ammo as there are zombies in the alley, or by opening the hatch in the restaurant. In both instances, Carlos also meets up with Nemesis for the first time. Later on, after being chased down by Nemesis, who seems to have an unhealthy obsession with chasing women, especially Jill, around town, she meets up with Carlos again and also with his team at the cable car. The plan team leader Nikolai lays out is to get the cable car to work, make your way inside of the cable car to the designated landing zone for a chopper, the clock tower. The cable car is practically used as a shield and allows them to traverse safely to the clock tower. As you gather the essential items to get the cable car to work, notably a jumper or power cable, machine oil, oil additive, and a fuse, throughout your endeavor, depending on the routes you take, you get to know a bit more about Nikolai, Carlos, and the rest of the team. With Carlos seeming like a guy you can definitely rely on, and Nikolai seeming more, excuse me, but I have to say, and it has to be done, sus, with every scene you see him in. Notably, depending on the route, you get 2 potential scenes with Murphy, but I get into more detail in the entire life selection bit later on. However, Nikolai seems to die either due to zombies bursting into the Umbrella sales facility building thing, or by being blown up at the gas station, presumably, because at the gas station we can't go into the room because it is blocked by fire, and in the Umbrella facility we don't see his corpse, only his shattered laptop. Jill and Carlos then make their way to the clock tower in the cable car with Lieutenant Mikhail inside. Nemesis joins them for a short ride in a scene where Mikhail blows himself up with Nemesis towering over him, killing him and potentially Nemi in the process. And by the way, it is possible to down Nemesis here, but you don't get a drop, and after you've downed him, the regular cutscene plays regardless, so there is no way for Mikhail to survive here. The brakes of the cable car then refuse to work, leaving Jill either to use the emergency brake or jumping out of the moving train. We meet up with Carlos in the clock tower and then proceed to gather supplies to ring the bell. And that seems to work. A chopper flies in, Jill breathes a sigh of relief, saying it's finally over, only for Nemi to appear with a rocket launcher to shoot the rescuing chopper down. To make matters worse, he manages to connect his tentacle in Jill's shoulder, infecting her with the T-virus. After injuring Nemi to the point where he meanders off, Carlos arrives to get Jill to safety. He sets off to go to the hospital to get the vaccine to cure Jill of the T-virus. Inside of the hospital, things with Nikolai heat up as we are informed that he is in fact still alive. Depending on the route, Tyrell either suspects Carlos to be in cahoots with whatever Nikolai is doing, or Nikolai outright threatening Carlos after he encountered Nikolai murdering Tyrell. When Carlos retrieves the antivirus and makes his way out of the hospital, he sees multiple time bombs attached in the lobby of the hospital. Given the hunters that we've seen that they have been breeding, we can assume that someone, Nikolai, tried to destroy evidence and kill the last surviving member that now might know too much. Carlos manages to get the antivirus and Jill sets off to Raccoon Park. Needless to say, as soon as you leave the chapel room, Nemi comes back for vengeance. In Raccoon Park, you encounter a couple of dead, what appears to be Umbrella soldiers. In the cottage is where Nikolai's true intentions are revealed. He is one of the supervisors and was sent in to gather information about the T-virus. Most notably the spread of the T-virus and how it affects the body. Hence the scene in the Umbrella facility when he shot Murphy, where he had his laptop out gathering an intel about the spread of the virus, possibly. Threatening Jill doesn't work, however, as there is some sort of earthquake all of a sudden, which leads Nikolai to dash off, panically saying, "Another mutant." That mutant happens to be the Gravedigger that Jill encountered just before the cable car earlier. There, she could easily escape him, but this time she has to take him down. After that, she is off to the waste disposal factory. This is where the final showdown with Nemi takes place. Now there are two ways for the game to proceed here. If, right before you enter the facility, chose to jump off of the bridge when you encounter Nemi, Carlos saves Jill from a zombie ambush. He says that the government can't get the situation in Raccoon City under control, so their plan is to launch a nuke directly into the city as soon as day breaks. They agree to split up to find a way out of the city as quickly as possible. Now is what we would assume is gonna be the final dance with Nemesis. We encounter him in his Solidus snake form. Jill sets off a couple of acid valves to douse Nemesis in acid. After wounding him to the point where he is forced to the ground, Jill slides a card into the slot to escape the room, and all of the items inside the room, including Nemi's body, get thrown into apparently acid. Right after that, Jill finds out that there is one chopper at the waste disposal facility, fully loaded with fuel. As Jill reaches the control tower, Nikolai chimes in via the intercom. Turns out Nikolai stole the last remaining chopper. Now it is up for Jill to deal with Nikolai. Either she shoots him down and thus eliminating the possibly last method to escape the city, or she tries to negotiate with Nikolai, which leads to Nikolai just flying off into the distance. After the encounter, Carlos comes in. He refuses to die in a place like this and tries to figure a way out of the situation. Carlos and Jill split up again, and a warning message is heard over the loudspeakers, confirming the missile attack. An escape hatch opens and Jill proceeds to go down, but of course, before we can actually escape, Nemi, that we doused into acid, killed multiple times, got electrocuted, got blown off by Mikhail, walked into fire, came back like solid as snake, comes back again, looking like Jason from the final Friday the 13th movie, snacks on apparently Resi 2 Tyrant's crutch and turns into, well, this. We load up a rail cannon, and after 2 to 3 successful blows right into the mess that Nemi has become, he still comes after us. So we either dash off to the helipad or finish him off for good.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
After giving him stars, Jill takes an elevator to the place where the helicopter that Nikolai took off with once stood. Carlos joins Jill and says that there is a second chopper coming in to rescue her specifically. Jill doesn't know who could possibly look for her. Carlos lights up a flare and signals the chopper to land. As it turns out, even though he is never mentioned or fully shown, it is an old fan favorite, and this ending is also considered canon.
Thanks, you saved us.
I couldn't let you die.
Is it you?
Are you ready to finish this?
It's coming.
Yeah. It's the end.
But hold up! This is only one way for the story to proceed/end. The other possibility for the story to proceed is when you pushed Nemi off of the bridge and entered the facility. Here, Carlos tells Jill again about the plan to nuke Raccoon City. Here is where things differ. As Jill makes her way to the acid valve room, Nikolai opens fire at Jill. Here we get the full explanation. He killed off all of the other supervisors, because if there is only him left that can provide Umbrella with field research, then there is more money in the end for him. When Jill asks why he wants to kill her, given that she is not even on Umbrella's payroll, he states that Umbrella wants Jill eliminated for reasons of their own, and that there is basically a bounty for the confirmation of her death. After he spilled the beans, we get some horrifying off-screen sounds and we see Nikolai being dragged up to the ceiling, sprouting tons of blood in the process. Jill makes her way towards Nikolai and our suspicions are correct. Something, probably Nemesis, killed him. After the aforementioned Nemesis acid valve room fight, Jill makes her way to the control tower again. Given that Nikolai is already dead, Carlos chimes in over the intercom this time. Carlos tells Jill that he managed to find a chopper and that it is ready to take off. All that is left now is for her to make her way to the landing zone. After the also aforementioned final Nemi fight, Jill takes the elevator upstairs to the landing zone, meets up with Carlos, and they both make their way out of the city alive, watching as the nuke hits Raccoon City, wiping it off the map entirely.
I guess we're all set.
All right then, we're out of here.
Oh no.
It's here. It's time to go.
That's it. I've had it. This time they've been too fun.
With a couple more additions, Resident Evil 3 plays the exact same way as Resident Evil 1 and 2, and that means tank controls. Many people voice their opinions on their dislike for tank controls, but if I'm totally honest with you, I personally never had a problem with it. Sometimes, and I think you have to play it yourself in order to understand it, it can be quite tricky to adjust to the frequent switching fixed camera angles, but if you've played it for a bit, you get used to it pretty fast. Aside from that, they added a couple more stuff to make you feel more immersed in the game and to take your skills to the next level. Not only did they integrate a quick turn, which is executed by pressing down and the run button at the same time, which gives you that much more movability and chances for you to outsmart enemies, they also added a shove, which prevents Jill from being stun locked. It works like this. A zombie bites you. You take damage. If another zombie would take a bite out of you right after, the game registers that and Jill automatically initiates a shove to, as mentioned, prevent Jill from getting stun locked and get bitten to death without you being able to do anything against that. Speaking of the shoving mechanic, there is also a dodge mechanic that they've introduced in Resident Evil 3. Now the way they made it actually skill-based in the remake is perfect. In Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, however, it's really rough around the edges. The way to initiate a dodge is as follows. If you tap the button to raise your weapon at an enemy right before he hits you, instead of standing there taking damage, Jill instead either dodges, shoves, or rolls out of the way. The enemy misses or gets shoved to the ground in the process. The perfect way to do this is to take a weapon that has a high raise animation. The thing is, the enemy has to hit you during the time it takes for Jill to raise her weapon and get ready to fire. The longest frame for that would be the rocket launcher. To increase that window even further, you turn your back to a zombie. This is also why you see some people turning their back to zombies when they draw the samurai edge, as turning your back to a zombie also increases the frames. Another way to initiate the dodge mechanic is to press the fire button right before an enemy hit is registered, which is pretty hard to pull off, as you can imagine. While that mechanic sounds good on paper, I can tell you from personal experience that even with the rocket launcher equipped, it never works out as frequently as it should be. You can be the most insane WolfDNC type of Resident Evil 3 god, but it's really always up to the game if it gives you the dodge or not. And then it is also completely random what type of dodge you get. Against zombies it can be a shove that sends them to the ground or not. Against a drain demo it can be a simple dodge to the left or right, with the best being a dodge roll and Jill kneeling firing her samurai edge, in which during that stance she also has a quicker rate of fire. But given that it is entirely random, you don't get much of a say on what kind of dodge you'll get. And on another note, even if you hit a dodge, the enemy can still hit you if there is not enough space to safely dodge to. And by the way, the mod Lord of Necropolis, which I'll feature a bit later, has integrated a feature with a lot more consistency. But yeah, more on that later, as I said. There are also other secret mechanics like quick shooting, spread shooting, which is something that I'll also touch upon later on. Aside from those additions, and aside from one spot in the RPD and one in the clock tower, they also added free movement on stairs. Remember in Resident Evil 2 when you had to tap a button to climb stairs and it would have an animation of Leon or Claire climbing up those stairs? Yeah, no more. Jill can freely move on stairs as she pleases. Which doesn't seem like a big deal at first, but considering that neither zombies nor Nemi can grab you while you are on the stairs, you can use this to your advantage. Nemi is forced to punch you, while you can lay a beatdown on him, while zombies can only puke on you to inflict damage. Your main source of saving is, also as previous games before, with ink ribbons at trusty old reliable typewriters. On hard mode, you get a limited amount of ink ribbons strewn about the game, whereas in easy mode, you start with an infinite amount of ink ribbons. The amount of saves you make throughout the game is also tied to your rank at the end of the game, as was also the case with previous titles as well. Our main sources of healing are also back. We have the standard first aid sprays that completely fill your HP upon use. They also have added a first aid bundle which can drop by Nemesis and is also in the box when you chose to play on easy mode. It can also hold up to 3 first aid sprays at once. What's the downside? Every time you use a healing item, specifically a first aid spray, it decreases your score for your rank at the end of the game. The second way of healing is with herbs. Once again we have green herbs, red herbs and blue herbs. Blue herbs cure poison and can only be mixed with green and red herbs. Red herbs on themselves do absolutely nothing, but when mixed with one green herb it has the same effect as a first aid spray, healing you completely. One green herb is the slightest form of healing, 2 greens are more potent, and 3 greens are a total waste because 1 green and 1 red have pretty much the same effect. A new feature that they have added is that you can make your own ammunition, but I will cover that later in more detail when we cover the weapons. Another little thing that very few people know is that you can also aim at various objects in the area. These do a good amount of damage and can assist you in encounters with Nemi or other enemies.
Sound is one of the most, if not the absolute important part of any horror game. You ever played pixelated horror games? Those are 100% more scary than some AAA horror games, because what they lack in graphics, they make up for with the soundtrack and ambience. Resident Evil 3 does an amazing job of capturing the tone of any situation. From the songs that play when you go through up and downtown, perfectly encapsulates a city in ruins, overgrown by zombies and who knows what. A tone that signals that all hope is lost, but there is still this glimpse of making it out alive. A slight chance of hope. The glorious safe room theme, which is dubbed by many people as the best safe room theme out of the trilogy, or out of any Resident Evil game, which I definitely can only agree with. With the strings signaling the hopelessness, while the soothing but still kinda cold piano notes give you a feeling of comfort and that aforementioned slight glimpse of hope. Perfection. Then we have the different Nemesis themes. When Nemesis is lingering outside, for example, you get this super scary suspense building music. You know that he is somewhere near you when you hear this music. And then boom, he comes bursting through the glass in the RPD like Jason in any Friday the 13th movie. Some soundtracks, like the RPD soundtrack, are ripped straight out of Resident Evil 2. We play Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. We just encountered him in front of the RPD. I'm pretty sure that most people just ran away from him the first time they encounter him. If not, they tried to kill him and probably died in the process. So you have this massive beast trying to get in the RPD, and this soundtrack plays. Every time you hear this door slam sound, you think he just broke in. Until... goosebumps every time. And let's not forget the part at the end when the nuke is making its way to Raccoon City. You see the nuke approaching in the radar and...
Warning. Missile attack confirmed. Warning. Missile attack confirmed. Emergency level D. All personnel evacuate immediately.
That sense of urgency mixed with the constant beeping of the radar is just chef's kiss. One of my favorite tracks has to be City of Ruin. Remember how I described the safe room theme? That mixture of hopelessness but slight ray of hope, that is this song. This song describes Resident Evil 3 perfectly. You have the overall tone of a city that is completely lost but with some short heavy strings mixed in, giving you a sense of urgency, a sense to keep pushing, to keep fighting, with the obvious horror-esque high strings to let you know that you might be the last person alive. But perfect sound is only one part to make an atmosphere thick. The other one is the overall look. All the backgrounds are beautifully drawn with a lot of detail. I'm a huge fan of apocalyptic scenery, and seeing all the demolished cars, boarded up doors, crashed buses with the driver hanging out of the front view mirror, and the lack of colors in the city makes for the picture-perfect zombie apocalypse scenario. Let's not forget the little details when you approach certain parts in the environment, like the soldier that shot himself in the head, where you find a clip for your pistol as well as his diary, listing his final moments in Raccoon City, or the guy in the cellar, basement area, where you find the shotgun, where Jill gives her thoughts about this guy meeting his demise. Jill's thoughts on some parts in the environment wraps another layer of immersion around you, and Speaking of little details, they actually drew 2 different versions of the restaurant. We always see the restaurant fully intact, sure, but if you happen to trigger Carlos in the restaurant and choose to throw the lamp into the gas leak to in-cap Nemi, the restaurant becomes severely damaged by the explosion. And did you notice that when you leave the RPD that nightfall has actually hit? Not only is the entire uptown and RPD area engulfed in more darkness, you also see some neon lights and street lamps powered on. Lovely little detail there. And I briefly mentioned this. The small diaries, pamphlets and faxes that you find throughout the game, some of them showing you landmarks you'll encounter later in the game, show you puzzles you are about to encounter, or give you hints about their last moments, like that soldier that I mentioned earlier. Mercenaries Diary. September 1st. Following 6 months of intensive training, my body's edge had returned. I was a good soldier, but they ordered my execution with no reason given. I was tortured and forced to give a false confession. But on the morning of my execution, a miracle happened. The company had helped me out, giving me a second lease on life. September 15th. I ended my vacation short and returned to the HQ office. It looks like my UBCS unit's been called into action. Umbrella maintains its own paramilitary unit to counter corporate terrorism and VIP abduction. In addition, they have nightmen who specialize in handling problems caused by illegal products. I'm currently a member of the latter. September 28th. Dawn's here, but we're still slogging through this nightmare. There are no provisions of any kind here. The undead walk the streets feeding upon the flesh of the living. Given the choice again, I would rather have been executed. Death Row was heavenly asylum compared to this place. I've chosen to pull the trigger myself, in the hope that my dead body won't come back to life. And there is a string of documents later on that slowly feeds you information about these supervisors that Umbrella has dropped in, most notably why you find some of them dead. Let me quickly read to you my favorite file in the game that you will find in the Raccoon Press building. Reporter's Memo. At last I have found the evidence I need to prove that the cannibal disease is indeed happening in this city. One man actually ate people to death. He was like a savage animal tearing away a new flesh. It was completely disgusting. I have heard rumors that many people are also suffering from this disease now. However, the causes of this disease is not yet known. Is this another mystery of the present disease? I will have to check on it. They have placed Raccoon City under martial law because of the cannibal disease. I have lost contact with the media outside of the city, but I won't give up. As a journalist, I won't keep my eyes shut and walk away. I have a duty to the people and my profession. I don't think the disease has spread nationwide yet. I believe that this city holds the key to its creation and cure. In fact, I'm sure of it. The military has set up blockades around the city to keep people from escaping and spreading the disease. Most of the citizens have either died or have come in contact with the disease. I know that it is the right decision to quarantine the city, but I can't help but pity myself. If I am infected or eaten, it doesn't matter. My fate is already sealed. All I have left is my journalism. I won't give up until I solve the mystery of this deadly disease. I have just discovered that the disease is not spread through the air, but by some other means. As you can see, this guy was staying true to his roots until the very end, trying to bring out the scoop. He was close to the truth and exposing everything, but sadly he failed in the end. As I mentioned, some files have subtle hints on upcoming puzzles or landmarks you should watch out for. This one is literally just there to immerse you more into the game. There was so much more, like in the clock tower when you encounter that godforsaken time puzzle. You see a soldier and a citizen in the corner. When you examine them, you'll find his pocketbook detailing the events that took place from September 26th to September 28th. A struggle to get to the clock tower and how he ended up the way he ended up. the main focus of the game. Standard, plain, good old zombies, and there are lots of them, and they all come in different shapes and forms. They lunge, they hug, they bite, they walk, they crawl, and every single one can go turbo, which is all dependent on good old RNGesus. Going turbo means a zombie can all of a sudden break out into a mad dash and charge at you with heightened speed. Aside from crawling zombies, every zombie can do this at any given moment, and obviously there are some zombies that are turbo from the get-go. Sliding worms, also affectionately called intellectuals by yours truly, are baby gravediggers that roam in sewer areas in Raccoon City. They usually come in packs and try to lunge at you. Once they grab a hold of you, they suck on your body. Pause. They also changed color, which is pretty neat. Dodging them is fairly easy, and trying to shoot them is more of a waste of ammo, so avoiding them is way better / efficient and faster than killing them. Also, given that the locations they spawn in are areas you can quickly just scooch by. Crows, much like sliding worms, you'll encounter extremely rare in the game, and also, much like worms, dealing with them is way more of a nuisance than just dodging or ignoring them. They attack from the air and try to mess up Jill's hair when they attack. Obviously, they don't have much HP, and you can usually get rid of one by 1 or 2 shots from the samurai edge, but given their speed, it's just better to avoid them. Also known as stupid perros by WolfDNC, perros have been in the game ever since Resident Evil 1, and they are also back in Resi 3. And this time, they can also be on fire, which is a neat, cute little addition. Other than that, they are similar to the ones in Resident Evil 2. Some of them are pretty chill, even when you sprint past them, and some just come from the cut and take a bite out of you. Making their comeback from Resident Evil 2 are the spoders. Having arachnophobia myself, I can tell the worst ones are from the Resident Evil 1 HD remaster version. Those things are fucking ugh. Resi 3 spoders give me a similar feeling. Disgusting, but HD remaster ones are absolutely just worse. The damage they inflict is not as bad as their ability to poison you. When they hit you directly or with their goo, they have a chance to inject you with poison. Once poisoned, you progressively lose health until you eventually die. You can delay this by healing yourself up or use blue herbs to immediately stop the poison. The idea of poisoning is something that hasn't been changed in all Resi games, and it makes very little sense for one reason. Yes, there are some blue herbs strewn about the game, but in every chapter where you can get poisoned, there are those infinite baskets of blue herbs where you can cure yourself of poison. Which is nice, because if you happen to run out of blue herbs, you can always cure yourself there. But then why have poison in the game in the first place? Mini spoders are the small spoders that can spawn once you defeat a big spoder. Spoderception. There's not much going for them. Shooting them is a waste of ammo, given that the damage they inflict is really minuscule. The only thing they can do is mini stun you and, as mentioned, deal a little bit of damage. It is also possible to kill them by simply walking over them. Ah yes, from spoders to drain demos. You first encounter them in a scripted cutscene in the maintenance area. You deal with one falling from the ceiling only to discover that there is another one lurking close by. Drain demos can sweep at you with their claws, or, if you attempt to run away, chase you on 2 feet, making them go extremely fast, latch onto you in an attempt to suck out your blood. Pause. When you encounter one of them, it's mostly just better to avoid them. If you encounter multiple ones and they block your path, a simple shotgun shot is enough to knock them on their backs, and a single magnum shot just kills them outright. Brain suckers are where things get juicy, literally. they can take the place of a Drain Demo, Hunter, Betas, and Zombies in certain areas. Overall, they are pretty much the same as Drain Demos, with the only difference that they look different and can take a lot more damage than their counterparts. But again, a single Magnum shot also kills them. Other than that, the attack patterns, and to my knowledge also the damage, is the same as for the Drain Demos. The most lethal out of all the creatures that we have covered so far. Did you notice that for most of the enemies I mentioned that if they come solo, they are not that big of a threat, but once there are multiple of them, it can become an issue? One hunter is enough to kill you. This is how problematic they are. They have two forms of attacking. They either slash at your feet when they are close to you, or if they are close enough, they slash right at your head and decapitate you. I'm not entirely sure if it is dependent on your health, but I had that happen to me when I was in yellow caution multiple times. Hunters are introduced in the first floor of the hospital. As soon as you see them, open fire. Much like Drain Demos and Brainsuckers, a single Magnum shot will do the trick. You can also unload the assault rifle with Carlos during the hospital segment. The assault rifle gives a slight stun effect to hunters, so if you fire soon enough at them, you should be good. Just make sure that the fire mode is set to automatic. Also note that if they are chilling, they sometimes jump back and forth a bit. Take that into account when you try to take a sneaky shot at them, because once they hear a shot, they will most likely swarm towards you. Hunter Gammas are only encountered in the experiment room in the hospital during the hospital segment, and they have a chance to spawn at the wooden jetty in the park, taking the spot that can also be occupied by zombies. Hunter Gammas are pretty similar to Hunter Betas with three differences. Number one is their appearance. Obviously, they are weaker than Hunter Betas, and the one thing that is more scary about them is that they can jump much further. However, the position in which they spawn is what makes them a joke, pretty much. In the said room in which they spawn, the experiment room, they bust out of the tube when you are about to leave the room. So just take 2 steps towards the door and you're out. In the park, having zombies spawn is a bigger hurdle than Gammas, because it is harder to dodge them. The Gammas, however, only spawn once you are already past them. AKA you walk into the wooden jetty, the camera pans down and they jump behind you, so if you just run into the next area, which is easy because nothing blocks your path, you're good.
What's going on? Whoa! What is that?
The namesake of the game is Nemesis, but there is also, to quote Nikolai, another mutant that makes your escape a bit more harder. In Resi 1 you had the giant mutated snack Yawn. In Resi 3 it is a giant, as mentioned earlier, not Alaska, not bull, but worm with the beautiful name Gravedigger, not the rap group, sadly. The first time you encounter him is in the Lonsdale Underground Passage. Once you have all parts to get the cable car going, the ground starts to shake violently and the ground beneath Jill's feet collapses. That's when you first see part of the Gravedigger. The fight is interesting because you don't have to defeat him at all. You just activate 2 panels, have the ladder drop down, and then you can escape. The benefit of defeating him is that for the second fight later on, where you are forced to defeat him, he is significantly weaker than he would be if you just escape. At the point in the park where you get the key to leave the park, we get a hint from Nikolai, as mentioned earlier, where he says another mutant, and darts off as usually. This is much later in the game during the park segment, so maybe you have already forgotten about him. After a cutscene, the Gravedigger destroys the graveyard and you have to fight him. Woman versus worm. The weapon of choice here would be the grenade launcher loaded with acid rounds. They will inflict the most amount of damage. If the fight takes too long, and if you don't have the necessary weaponry to deal with him, the game will trigger an event in which one of the lamps will start to buckle. You can shoot this lamppost to send it splashing into the puddle beneath. Once the gravedigger comes in contact with the puddle, he dies instantly. Be aware of the fight at the graveyard though. Once you know his attack patterns, the fight is pretty easy, but for the untrained people, the gravedigger can dish out immense damage, and it can be tricky to guess where he'll pop out next once he is underground.
We've got a...
The namesake of the game, Nemesis. The way he is introduced by the franchise's biggest coward, Brad Vickers, is really, really good. Once you have tracked Brad down and he gets tenderly loved by a zombie in the bar, he simply says that he is coming after STARS members and that everyone is gonna die. Nemi makes that statement true by impaling Brad in front of Jill in front of the RPD building. Nemi is relentless, apparently unkillable, and will stop at nothing to achieve his mission to kill each and every STARS member in the city and everyone that stands in his way to accomplish that goal. While you can absolutely kill Nemi every time he appears, he is never gone for certain. Every time you down him once, he will get back up and attempt to kill you again. He is only dead once the music stops playing. While it takes a stupid amount of ammo to kill Nemi, the most efficient way to kill him, by the way, is with a grenade launcher equipped with freeze rounds. It is beneficial for you to down him every time he comes for you. Not only to give him stars, but also to assert dominance, and because every time you down him, he drops a goodie for you. Kill him once, you get the Eagle Parts A. Kill him a second time, you get the Eagle Parts B. 3 times gives you a first aid box, which holds up to 3 first aid sprays, aka a full heal that, upon use, however, decreases your rank. On the 4th down, he drops the M37 Parts A. The 5th down, he drops the M37 Parts B. The 6th down is another first aid box. And upon the 7th kill, you get either the assault rifle, or, if you have completed the game at least once, you get an infinite ammo kit, which you can apply to one gun of your choosing. There is a way to in-cap Nemi with 2 live selection events, one at the restaurant, or the Raccoon Press building, and the other one is by using the court in the clock tower. Doing this will obviously only give you the Eagle 6.0 at the clock tower. If you kill him on your own when he actually chases you, you can obtain the Eagle 6.0 already at the RPD, where you kill him on the first encounter and when he bursts through the glass when you are about to leave the RPD. Nemesis has a unique feature as he can chase you through multiple rooms in the game. When he shows up and his theme is playing, you know that he is lurking somewhere. You might think that you are safe once you enter another room, but oh boy are you wrong. When he chases you, he doesn't let go. You will know that when he bursts through the glass in the RPD, where he conveniently is also equipped with a rocket launcher to also give him a ranged attack, because why not? He jumps through when you are on your way of exiting the area. However, every time the camera changes and you can't see the door you have entered through, and his music is still playing, as soon as the camera changes to an angle in which you can't see the door, he will burst through the door and give chase. The reason behind that is that the developers couldn't animate him opening or destroying doors, which is probably because all rooms in Resident Evil 3 are not connected in the actual code. That is true for every single room except one specific room, which is after you give Jill the antidote. There is a scripted cutscene in which Nemi breaks down a door, turning these 2 separate rooms into one. This is the only occasion in which he bypasses the general law of him being unable to bust through the door, as long as you still see the door. I love the fact that they have done that in that specific part, because you just gained back control of Jill. You know how Nemi operates and that you are generally safe once you enter a new area, but right here, Nemi throws a curveball at you and everything you learned about him is null and void, because what if he does this in other parts of the game? adding a new level of tension to encountering Nemi. Throughout the entire game, it is possible to run away from Nemi. It makes sense, however, to kill him, just for the item drops, obviously. But there are 3 instances in which you have to fight him. The first time is at the clock tower, where he injects Jill with the virus. He also comes equipped with a rocket launcher. Just when you went through the entire clock tower to sound the bell, Nemi shoots down the chopper, injects Jill with the virus, and once he runs out of ammo, he does the usual sprinting at her, trying to kill her. Aside from that though, Nemi also evolves throughout the game. At the beginning, he is a bit less nimble, but he is still faster than Jill when he's running, and he packs quite a punch. However, after Mikhail blew him up in the cable car, where you think Nemi is actually dead, he then appears solid as Snake style in the clock tower during the Carlos segment, without his protective armor, but a lot more tentacles. Now he's not as keen to pick you up and impale you with a spike. He has a long-range poke with his tentacle, which looks just like in the scene where he injects Jill with the virus, which in caution leads to your death. He can also whip you with his tentacles, grab you by your feet and toss you around, as well as swipe you off your feet to draw you into melee range. So he can give you a quick smack with the tentacle if you're not fast enough. The instance in which you have to fight him the second time is also in this phase. This is in the waste disposal factory, where you can use acid valves to inflict damage on him. Either that, or you use your entire arsenal of weapons to literally gun him down. As per usual, free rounds will greatly help you, not only damage wise, but also because they slow him down, but more on that in the weapons segment. After you kill him and throw him in probably acid in the waste disposal factory, when you are about to make your escape, Nemi comes down from the ceiling looking like Jason from the final Friday the 13th movie. He nibbles on Birkin's crotch for a bit until he turns into this massive, well, this. In this form, he is pretty much invincible to your weaponry. He can spit poison that also lingers on the ground for a while, and he has an instant kill if you stand too close to him. His tentacles also give him a good range attack alongside his acid spit attack. This is the third and final time and form you have to fight. You have to insert 3 industrial-sized batteries to activate the rail cannon to kill Nemi. Not gonna lie here, this is the only time in which the remake did a better job than the original. In the remake, you take the rail cannon and blast Nemi into oblivion yourself. In the original, you have to kite him around the room and line him up so the rail cannon hits him. I love this though because it goes to show you that it is literally impossible to kill Nemi. He shows up every single time. Just when you thought you've dealt with him and there is no way for him to get back, he shows up again, and it requires a special cannon to finally kill him. However, even the rail cannon fails at it, because once Jill tries to leave, Nemi, again in his Jason's final Friday the 13th cosplay, still tries to kill Jill. He crawls towards her, and this is when your final life selection event shows up. You either leave or terminate the monster. When you choose to terminate it, which you should if you don't speedrun the game, Jill will dodge Nemi's acid attack, grab a magnum and fire multiple shots at him, ending with the most badass quote ever.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
Which sends Nemi crumbling and finally dying. This badass quote, which is extremely famous in the RE fandom, was completely butchered in the remake, by the way.
Damn it!
Come on, you creepy ass stalker! You want stars? I'll give you stars!
Just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
You're still wandering around.
Nikolai? So, you want to get out of here alone? Is that your plan?
I made certain none of the other supervisors survived.
There is a bonus enemy or boss when you choose a specific route. At the life selection segment, when you encounter Nemi on the bridge in front of the waste disposal facility, when you choose to knock him off the bridge, you will encounter Nikolai before the Nemi acid fight, in which he gets dragged up off screen by Nemi and killed. If you, however, choose to jump off the bridge, you will get to meet Nikolai in his helicopter. 2 out of 3 things can happen here. The life selection options are trying to negotiate with him, which leads to Nikolai flying away, opening a timeline in which he survives, or you fight him. If you picked up the rocket launcher, perfect, it's kinda mandatory if you want to kill him. You can shoot him down and kill him. If you take too long, he will run out of ammo and also fly off, once again opening a timeline in which he survives. The fight is kinda cool because it shows that not only Nemi is disgustingly persistent, but Nikolai as well. It kinda sucks though that this is the only instance in which you can actually square off with him, and not only is it tied to a specific life selection, it is also not a fair 1v1 fight, but then again, you also couldn't really fight Wesker in Resi 1, so they stuck to their guns with this one as well, as it seems. Now with all these obstacles trying to hinder your last escape, you need a good amount of artillery to fend them off, and thankfully you have quite a good amount of artillery to choose from. The knife is an item that is stored in your item box from the beginning of the game. While it makes no sense to use it aside from knife runs, it can come in handy by dealing with zombies when you somehow find yourself starving for ammo, as you can kill zombies with your handgun and once they are downed, you can slice at them with the knife to save ammo. Aside from that, the knife is really only helpful during the fight with Nemi at the waste disposal facility, as you can activate the valves to release the acid with the knife. Other than that, it is safe to store it in the item box for the rest of the game. Your standard trusty old handgun, the Samurai Edge, manufactured by our Lord and Savior Kendo.
This thing.
The gun uses handgun rounds. You start off with this gun and it remains powerful throughout the entirety of the game. At the beginning, when you encounter zombies and dogs, the handgun is more than enough to deal with them. As a single handgun shot will send a dog to the ground, you can easily juggle them. Once a zombie goes turbo, the handgun can be a bit too slow in terms of its rate of fire, but if you keep your distance, it should do the trick. You can craft ammo for the handgun with the Gunpowder A, where 1 gives you 15 shots, aka 1 magazine, 2 gives you 35, 3 gives you 55, and Gunpowder BBA gives you the most bang for your buck at 60 handgun ammo. However, this is the time where I teach you about enhanced ammo. While it makes sense to combine multiple A gunpowders at once to get more ammo, for instance double A gives you 35 instead of if you combine those separately, where you only get 30 ammo. After you've used Gunpowder A on the reloading tool to craft pistol ammo on the 8th time, the game asks you if you would like to create enhanced ammo. The way this works is the following. Every time you use the reloading tool with a specific gunpowder, for instance A, you get 1 XP for using the tool on Gunpowder A. However, if you use a AAA on a reloading tool, it also only gives you 1 XP instead of 3. So the only way to level up your crafting and craft multiple enhanced ammo for the pistol is by using up every Gunpowder A you find separately. Enhanced ammo can't be stacked with regular pistol ammo and has a different icon on the screen, and the bullets are not labeled in green but in red instead. It can also only be used by the Samurai Edge. With these HG bullets E, the handgun remains relevant even in later stages of the game. Not only does the damage increase significantly, it has a higher recoil, which is bad, but it looks more badass, and it can also stun Nemi temporarily if he runs at you. This also makes it so zombies are pushed back immediately if you hit them. And one more tip, keep track on your ammo. If you use up an entire clip, which is 15 shots, Jill will be forced to reload, which takes a moment but leaves you open to a zombie attack or even worse, a hunter decapitation. So instead of letting Jill reload like that, either press the button to reload yourself or just hop into the menu, select your gun, combine it with handgun ammo to instantly reload your gun fully, so you don't have to sit through the reload animation and you can continuously dish out damage. This is crucial against higher threat enemies like hunters, drain demos, brain suckers, and obviously Nemi. And don't forget, if enemies interrupt you during the reload animation, once Jill fought off the enemy, when you attempt to shoot, she will obviously again try to reload, leaving you open to yet another enemy attack. So manual reloading is something you should get used to from the get-go. The Benelli M3S is your first higher caliber weapon that you find. You find it very early on in a basement where Brad sprints away from. Just like in previous games, this weapon can decapitate zombies by letting them get close to you and aiming up. It has more stopping power than the handgun and a wider spread and is perfect to use against spoders and drain demos and brainsuckers. Not so much against hunters because they usually come in packs and the reload after every shot is pretty long. Let alone you have to reload every single shell by itself if you don't reload manually, which you absolutely should, especially for the Benelli. Later on, in the Advanced Tactics segment, I will also tell you about an interesting tech called Spread Shot, which keeps the Benelli relevant even after you crafted the Western Custom, but more on that later. In order to craft ammo for the Benelli, you need Gunpowder B. The values are 1B gives you 7 shells, double B gives you 18, double AB gives you 22, and finally triple B gives you 30 shotgun shells. And again, if you've crafted 7 Bs and you are about to craft the 8th, you will get the chance to craft enhanced shotgun shells called SG Shell E. Much like enhanced pistol ammo, it can only be used with the Benelli M3S and the indicator for the ammo is red. When you fire a shot with the enhanced ammo, the recoil is so strong that Jill has to step back, giving you a great indicator on how much damage you can inflict with this one. And as you can see, if you use it on a zombie, seeing how it gets obliterated is a great feeling. The Eagle 6.0 is obtained, as mentioned previously, by downing Nemi twice. The first time you get the part A and the second time he drops part B. Combine them together and you get the Eagle 6.0 already loaded with 15 rounds. The Eagle 6.0 has a ridiculous firing speed, a super low recoil, a ludicrously fast reload animation, and, as you can see from the blood splatter on zombies, Jill always aims around the head area. This allows the Eagle 6.0 to critical strike, decapitating a zombie instantly, sometimes, if you're lucky, on the very first shot. Not only that, but it also deals a bit more damage in general. Now here's the deal. You can acquire it by killing Nemi twice. Ergo, if you're feeling lucky, you can get this as soon as you leave the RPD. Killing Nemi on the very first encounter and right after he bursts through the glass in the RPD. Why would you ever use the Samurai Edge instead of the Eagle? Simple. The Eagle can only be loaded with regular pistol ammo. Enhanced ammo can only be used with the Samurai Edge. This is a phenomenal decision by the developers, making the standard pistol still relevant, even though you get a superior one rather early on. Obviously, the Eagle is, just like the regular pistol, really good at dealing with low-level threats like zombies and dogs, and just like the Samurai Edge with enhanced ammo, it can also deal with spoders and drain demos, brainsuckers against hunters. Maybe the Samurai Edge with enhanced ammo, but I wouldn't trust on the Eagle against hunters. I personally hate this thing. Upon killing Nemi 5 times, you have the ability to combine the Western Custom parts A, killing Nemi 4 times, and B, killing Nemi 5 times, to get the Western Custom M37 shotgun. But it surely fires a lot faster than the regular shotgun, and it also reloads at an insane speed. I'm pretty convinced that it is a sawed-off shotgun because the range of this thing is absolute garbage. And I know, it is a shotgun. But with the regular one, you still have spread and you can stand at a respectable distance and still inflict some good damage. If you're not standing right in front of your target, this thing misses every single shot. Fact. It does shoot pretty fast though, so if you like to get real up close and personal with enemies, this weapon is for you. While it is considered more powerful than the Benelli, the downside of the Western Custom is, just like with the Eagle, that it can only be loaded with regular shotgun shells, but not with enhanced shotgun shells. Keeping, once again, the very first shotgun still relevant even though you find a superior one. But honestly, if you ask me, the Benelli is still superior because spread shot and enhanced ammo, but just saying. The Magnum. Depending on RNGs, you get it either in the RPD, which, if you are speedrunning this game, means restart, or at the power plant, aka you can completely miss either the Magnum or the grenade launcher in your playthrough. While the grenade launcher is your go-to weapon against Nemi, the Magnum takes care of other more beefy enemies. It one-shots spoders, drain demos, and most importantly hunters, which are, aside from Nemi, the most dangerous enemies you encounter. Scared of getting decapped by hunters? Never forget to bring your trusty magnum. Ammo for this is extremely scarce throughout the game, and crafting it is extremely resource draining, as it specifically requires a triple C gunpowder. So that's 3 gunpowder A's and 3 gunpowder B's for 24 magnum rounds. So be resourceful and only use it on big threats. Obviously, it also packs a punch against Nemi, but in that department it pales in comparison to the grenade launcher that we'll cover in a second. You'll find the meme thrower halfway into the game in the entranceway of the clock tower. The meme thrower is unique in 2 ways. For one, it doesn't use ammo that deals damage upon impact. It fires a mine on the map, and when the enemy gets close to it, it detonates. If you shoot directly at an enemy, the connection will stun it, and after about 1 or 2 seconds, it explodes. Be careful if it is an enemy that is charging at you, which is pretty much everything in the game, as the explosion can damage you too. This is, besides the shotgun, also the only weapon that has spread, in the sense that 1 mine also damages another enemy close to the mine. It can be quite fun if you set mines in your way and kite enemies through them, but as the name implies, it's more of a meme and isn't all that useful, also considering that you can't craft ammo for this one either. Your best friend against the Gravedigger and the one and only Nemesis. You can either find this at the RPD Stars office or at the power plant, swapping places with the Magnum respectively. The reason why the grenade launcher is good against every single enemy is because of the different types of ammunitions you can craft for it. You have regular grenade rounds, flame rounds, acid rounds, and freeze rounds. In order to craft grenade rounds yourself, you have to combine a gunpowder A and B to create a gunpowder C. Now I hear you already, but don't get your hopes up, there is no such thing as advanced grenade rounds, sadly. Regular grenade rounds, while they deal a good amount of damage, are only there to be combined with gunpowder A, B or C to create specific type of grenade rounds. And here is where it gets crazy. For the sake of everyone, I will give you the combinations that give you the most rounds. A regular C gunpowder gives you 10 grenade rounds. If you combine a triple A gunpowder with 6 regular grenade rounds, you get 18 flame rounds. Triple B with 6 grenade rounds gives you 18 acid rounds, and triple C with 6 grenade rounds nets you 18 freeze rounds. The damage distribution is as follows. Regular grenade rounds have, similar to the meme thrower, an area of effect damage, meaning once it connects with an enemy, it will also deal a bit of damage to surrounding enemies. Flame rounds will set enemies and areas on fire, dealing damage over time, and they are obviously dealing a bit more damage than regular grenade rounds. Acid rounds are your go-to rounds against the Gravedigger, as acid rounds are his main weakness. They are significantly more powerful than regular rounds and flame rounds. Freeze rounds will not only deal great damage against enemies, it will also freeze them in place for a short duration. Nemi's weakness also happens to be freeze rounds, and while it doesn't freeze him in place, it'll slow him down. And also take note that the little mist that emits from firing a freeze round will also deal a little bit of damage, so don't be afraid to use it when you are in close contact with Nemi. The M66 rocket launcher can be found at the end of the game and basically serves one purpose. As Nemi is pretty much unkillable without the rail cannon, you can use it to force Nikolai's helicopter to crash land on the spot. It comes preloaded with 4 shots and there is no way to craft any more ammo for it. It can be obtained after the acid valve Nemi fight in the weapon storage with the coded facility key. 1 rocket incapitates Nemi immediately. That means that 2 rockets send him to the ground entirely. The weapon also has the longest wind-up animation, making it the best weapon to use to execute the dodge mechanic. However, it also slows down your running speed as well. This weapon is stored in your item box when you play the game on easy mode, and it is also the weapon you start with during the Carlos segment. To my knowledge, aside from randomizers, there is no way to come across ammo for this in any way, so the 100% ammo it comes with is all you have. It has 2 fire modes: manual, where he aims down the sights and shoots a salve at enemies, or fully automatic, where you just spray at enemies. A perfect weapon for crowd control, and it can also keep hunters at bay. Aside from that, if you down Nemi for the 7th time, Nemi will also drop the assault rifle for Jill. This is only for the first playthrough though. In any subsequent playthrough, the assault rifle will be replaced by an infinite ammo kit. This weapon is stored in the item box for Carlos. It is pretty similar in terms of damage to Jill's Samurai Edge, holding 15 bullets as well as using regular HG bullets, even though it can also be loaded with HG bullets E as well. Other members of Nikolai's team, Nikolai and Tyrell specifically, use the SIG Pro as well as Brad Vickers. The SIG Pro is a nice addition for Carlos, but you can play his entire segment with the assault rifle, so the SIG Pro is pretty much useless and only needs to be used as a last resort. The Gatling gun is a special weapon in RE3. It is obtained by buying it for $3,000 in the Mercenaries game mode that we will get back to in a little bit. Getting $3,000 in Mercenaries is not an easy feat, so the Gatling gun is basically a reward for spending a lot of time in Mercenaries. It has unlimited ammo, deals insane damage, and has the highest fire rate of any weapon in the game. The only drawback is that it takes a bit of time for the barrel to spool up before it actually shoots. Another new feature that they introduced is the life selection feature. As I've already mentioned before, this is the #1 key point for replayability, if not only for the randomized item locations and enemy spawns. The life selection feature opens up new paths, cutscenes, and sometimes even completely different endings and outcomes. Some of these life selection events seem not to change too much, but in reality they completely alter the ending you get. I already mentioned it before, but before you enter the waste disposal facility, if you choose to jump off of the bridge, not only do you get an additional Nikolai boss fight, you also get a couple of different ways that fight pans out, leaving Nikolai's fate completely in your hands basically. And since we are on the topic of life selection, how about we take a look at all of them and how they change the game. This is the very first life selection event in the game. You encounter an enemy after he tenderly loved bread in front of the RPD. If you select Fight the Monster, Nemi charges at you. You then have the option of downing him or just dash into the RPD building. Fighting him has two benefits. For one, you can loot Brad's corpse to get the stars card, which you can use on the computer in the lobby to get the password for the locker in the evidence room to get the key to the stars office. If you don't get it off of him, you have to go to the training room, get Jill's card and backtrack to the lobby to use her keycard on the computer, so you save some time with that option. Another benefit is that Nemi will drop the first of 2 Eagle parts for the aforementioned Eagle 6.0. If you choose to escape, you literally just do that. You get into the building, Nemi tries to bust through the door, but never makes it. Oh, and if you happen to be overwhelmed with the decisions and can't decide, Nemi will make the decision for you, obviously attacking Jill, effectively choosing to fight the monster. The second one happens either in the restaurant, Grill 13, or the Raccoon Press building. In both instances, you meet Carlos, the one that you hear through the transmissions in the STARS office earlier.
No! Come anyone! Our platoon is cut off! No survivors found! This is Carlos! Immediately.
First off, it is wiser to trigger him in the restaurant simply because if you choose to get to the Raccoon Press building, first you have to fight your way through the narrow alleyway which is jam-packed with zombies. So you lose either some HP or ammo by going that way first. However, if you meet him in the Raccoon Press, you have two choices: jumping out of the building or hiding in the office.
Hey,
Where am I?
relax. You're fine.
If you say so, but my head feels like it's about to explode. Anyway, name's Carlos. Glad to meet you, lady.
Jill, Alpha Team, RPD's STARS unit. Who do you represent?
Stars, I see. Well, I'm a member of the Biohazard Countermeasure Force sent by Umbrella Incorporated.
Sent by Umbrella?
Hey, don't look at me like that. What did I say? Do you have a problem?
Oh no, it's him!
If you jump, not only do you get access to an area that is otherwise locked forever, you also get 2 additional red herbs to which you, again, otherwise would have no access to.
Just so you know, I'm not into that pain is pleasure thing, okay?
Just deal with it. That thing wants me dead. We've got to get out of here! Wait, I have to ask you something.
I know. You want to ask me out? All the foxy ladies love my accent. It drives them crazy.
I have to know. Why did Umbrella send you here?
Because we're on a civilian rescue mission.
Oh, you're full of it. They're the ones who caused all this in the first place.
Look, we're just mercenaries. Hired hands. Do you really think the master would tell his dogs why they have to retrieve the stick he just threw? Listen, if you want answers about Umbrella, you're asking the wrong guy. Believe it or not, we are here to rescue civilians. If you can trust me, join us. Think about it.
If you hide in the room, you get a cutscene in which Nemi gets knocked out by an explosion. This results in a free item drop from him. If you wait too long though, Nemi will wake back up and take chase. If you kill him here, which you should, because Carlos helps you out, be careful though. If Carlos dies, you get a game over. Nemi won't bother you for a while. If you chose to leave while Nemi is still up, he will chase you throughout the city for a good duration.
What's that?
Calm down, lady. I'm no zombie. My name's Carlos, Corporal of Umbrella's Biohazard Countermeasure Force. What's your name?
Jill, did you just say you belong to Umbrella's army?
Yeah. We came all the way out here to save you civilians, but the mission went bad the minute we landed.
How did he find me?
If you encounter Carlos in the restaurant, you get the chance to run into the basement or hide in the restaurant. Hiding in the restaurant is the same as hiding in the Raccoon Press building.
Over here!
Are you crazy? You could have barbecued both of us!
Same rules apply here as well. As you are about to leave, Nemi gets back up. You either leave and Nemi chases you, or you down him with the help of Carlos.
Wait, I have to ask you something.
I know. You want to ask me out? All the foxy ladies love my accent. It drives them crazy.
What? Keep dreaming. Tell me, why did Umbrella send your team in?
We're here to rescue the civilians.
Don't lie to me. Umbrella is the reason why this whole mess began.
Look, we're just mercenaries, hired hands. Do you really think the master would tell his dogs why they have to retrieve the stick he just threw? If you want answers, you should talk to someone else. I am not with Umbrella. Believe it or not, we're only here to rescue the civilians. If you can trust me, then help us. Think about it!
Escaping through the basement is the equivalent of jumping out of the Raccoon Press building.
This way. Wait, I have to ask you something.
I know. You want to ask me out? All the foxy ladies love my accent. It drives them crazy.
What? Keep dreaming. Tell me, Why did Umbrella send your team in?
We're here to rescue the civilians.
Don't lie to me. Umbrella is the reason why this whole mess began.
Look, we're just mercenaries, hired hands. Do you really think the master would tell his dogs why they have to retrieve the stick he just threw? If you want answers, you should talk to someone else. I am not with Umbrella. We'll have to finish this later. Believe it or not, we're only here to rescue the civilians. If you can trust me, then help us. Think about it.
There's a third option. If you don't press anything and stand completely still, Nemi will always miss his first swing. You can use this knowledge to down him with the help of Carlos. Now, this is the first decision that heavily alters the story and information you get about Carlos/Nikolai. If you met Carlos in the restaurant and decided to run into the basement or jump out of the building, you will trigger a cutscene in which you encounter Carlos at the sales office, being forced to kill his turning teammate Murphy.
No! Don't make me do this, Murphy. I don't want to shoot you. Kill me!
I finished. Not human.
Wait, we don't have to do this.
Please hurry. Before lose conscious. Before too late. Kill me!
Yeah! Murphy. Why? No. No.
Carlos!
As well as Nikolai appearing at the gas station.
I'll check over there.
But if you happen to have chosen the other option, you will trigger this cutscene in the sales office.
Wait!
What did you do?
I had no choice. He was about to turn into a zombie. It would have been a threat, so I eliminated it.
But he was still conscious, wasn't he?
He was as good as dead. And it took fewer bullets to kill him now than it would have, if he had transformed. Not now, I'm busy.
And at the gas station, you'll trigger this one.
Jill! Hey, the zombies are getting restless.
I know. I can hear them. What's going on?
Jill!
What's wrong?
They're coming! They must have sniffed us out. They know we're here.
Hey, calm down.
Any objections to my playing hero this time?
What are you doing? Carlos!
Relax. I'm not dead yet.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. That hero stuff is harder than it looks. Ouch, my ears are ringing. We both should be deaf by now. Okay, I'm gonna scrounge up some equipment. There might not be any at our destination.
As you can see, the latter one already plants some seeds of Nikolai being a bit odd, maybe even sus, whereas with the other decision, you are none the wiser and might even think that Nikolai is straight up dead. Also listen to the different kinds of conversations after the second life selection bits. They all differ ever so slightly. The next life selection triggers at the power plant. After you've picked one of the items out of the rooms, you'll hear a clank outside. It's a bunch of zombies rattling at the door as if it's Black Friday. And Friday is a good segue because you get to either increase the electricity output, which causes the machine to overload and all of the zombies to get their heads popped, lovely sound. And it also changes the puzzle to open the second shutter. This is the best of the two options as you don't waste any ammo this way. The second option, using the emergency exit, is worse. Now it can be that Nemi shows up here. That is, if you haven't been at the sales office yet and grabbed the oil additive from there. If Nemi doesn't appear here and you haven't gotten the key item, the fuse, yet, and even if you did, the second item is either the rocket launcher or the magnum, depending on what you have found in the RPD. You still should go back in. You have to deal with a couple of zombies, but as I stated, you either have a magnum or a grenade launcher or a key item still waiting for you. If neither decision is made, the zombies will break in and Nemi will spawn outside if, again, you haven't been to the sales office before. On another note, increasing the electricity also will ensure that Nemi will not spawn here at all, even if you haven't found the oil additive yet. This scene triggers after obtaining the oil additive, as Jill almost falls down a hole, two crates slide towards her. Your choice is to climb up or jump down. Climb up is simply that, whereas jumping down gives you access to a small underground passage with sliding worms. If neither decision is made, Jill will be hit by the crates, receiving damage and forcing her into the underground passage. Mikhail sacrificed himself, the cable car is about to derail due to the explosion.
Mikhail.
No! The brakes are out!
You are faced with the decision to either jump out of the window or use the emergency brake.
It's useless.
If you choose to jump, which is the speedrun strat, she will enter the clock tower through the back door and she will receive some freeze rounds from Carlos in the library room.
Carlos!
Phew. Well, we both managed to survive. Maybe we can start helping each other again.
Yeah, it's been rough. But we can rest now.
No, we're the only ones left. There's no rest for the wicked. Here's a gift for you.
This also causes Nemi to be equipped with a rocket launcher at the clock tower fight.
You're saved. Down here! It's finally over. Huh?
Stars. Stars.
If Jill uses the emergency brake, you will get an entirely different interaction with Carlos.
Carlos, I don't believe it. You're alive.
I'm not sure how we're gonna get out of this town.
What are you talking about? We made it!
You don't get it. They have no intention of letting us make it back alive. Do you really think we can trust their great evacuation plan? Huh, it's just a piece of paper.
But we don't have any other choice than to trust them right now.
No, if we're gonna die, then we should get to choose when it happens.
So that's it then, huh? You're giving up?
No. I just can't handle it.
And due to this, he won't give you any ammo. However, in the fight against Nemi, Carlos will appear at the start and destroying Nemi's rocket launcher, making the fight a bit easier.
Stars. Stars.
Jill!
If neither decision is made, the cable car will crash and Jill will be flung into the clock tower front courtyard, taking damage from the crash, so effectively the same as using the handbrake, only with the added downgrade of suffering damage. After you've solved the music box puzzle, Nemi is back again. Here you can choose between two options, use the light or use the cord. Using the light will blind Nemi and Jill will push him off of the balcony. This will ensure that Nemi won't stalk you.
Stars.
If you choose the cord, Jill will throw a cord that was attached to a light into the puddle Nemi is standing in, electrocuting him and knocking him out. This will give you another free item, but Nemi will also take chase as soon as you leave the balcony. If you kill him, you won't get another drop right away, but it will prevent him from chasing you any further. If you don't make a decision, you either have to fight Nemi or flee. After leaving the park and heading for the disused plant, Nemi will, once again, after you've defeated his benchwarmer, the Gravedigger, show up. Whatever you choose here will again massively alter the story here. If you choose to push him off, Jill dashes to the front door and meets up with Carlos in the safe room.
Carlos.
Jill, listen very carefully. They're planning on launching a missile directly into the city as soon as day breaks. The explosion will be powerful enough to destroy everything.
Are you sure about that?
Positive. I heard it straight from a supervisor.
They'll go this far to cover their tracks?
Come on, we have to hurry. There isn't much time left.
Nikolai will be killed by Nemi before squaring off with Nemi in the acid room, and Jill and Carlos will take the chopper to leave the city.
You're still wandering around.
Nikolai? So, you want to get out of here alone? Is that your plan?
I made certain none of the other supervisors survived. Since I'll be the only one who knows what really happened, I'll have more bargaining power when it comes to discussing my bonus.
Then why kill me? I'm not on their payroll.
What you eliminated for reasons of their own. The amount is modest, but there is a reward to be claimed upon the confirmation of your death.
That's great. Except I have no intention of contributing to your retirement fund.
Jill, where are you? If you can hear this transmission, respond immediately.
I'm here. What's up?
I got us a ride. The chopper engines are running and ready to go.
On my way.
The city's about to become ground zero. Hurry up! And don't forget to take that device with you.
What does it do?
That device tracks the distance of the approaching missile. Make sure you bring it with you. Now listen to me. Don't give up. We're both gonna survive this. Just get over here.
Set.
All right then, we're out of here.
Oh no.
It's here. It's time to go.
That's it. I've had it. This time they've gone too far.
If you choose to jump off the bridge, Jill will start at the sewers. She is quickly surrounded by zombies and then saved by Carlos.
Stars.
Rescuing you is becoming a full-time job.
Thanks, Carlos. I owe you.
Listen closely, Jill. They're going to launch a missile directly into the city as soon as day breaks.
At dawn? But that's only...
I know. We don't have much time left. We have to split up and find a way out of here. And hey, watch out for that traitor Nikolai.
Nikolai?
Later on, Nikolai will steal the chopper, leading to another life selection, which I will cover after this. Whatever happens to Nikolai, Jill and Carlos will be saved by Barry Burton. This choice, by the way, is considered canon.
Jill!
It's over, Carlos.
What are you talking about? Don't you hear that? There's a second chopper, and it's here to rescue you.
But who is it? Who could possibly be looking for me?
It doesn't matter. We just have to be there when it lands.
Thanks. You saved us.
I couldn't let you die.
Is it you?
Are you ready to finish this?
It's coming.
Yeah. It's the end.
If you don't choose anything, Nemi will hit Jill and make her hit the rocks below. That's some Mortal Kombat shit. She will take damage from it and the story progresses as if you've chosen to jump off of the bridge. Now, if you have previously chosen to jump off of the bridge, at the control room you will encounter Nikolai in a Hind D who will open fire at Jill. You get to either negotiate with Nikolai or return fire.
You're still alive. Such persistence.
Nikolai?
Sorry, but there is no escape from here.
Negotiating with him will be unsuccessful and Nikolai will just fly away.
So, you want to get out of here alone? Is that your plan?
I made certain none of the other supervisors survive. Since I'll be the only one who knows what really happened, I'll have more bargaining power when it comes to discussing my bonus.
Then why kill me? I'm not on their payroll.
They want me eliminated for reasons of their own. The amount is modest, but there is a reward claimed upon the confirmation of your death. Although I'm sure I'll miss you, it's time to say goodbye. You can either accept death with dignity or die with regret. It's entirely up to you.
Jill, what happened?
Carlos, Nikolai beat us to the chopper.
I guess this is it then. But I don't want to die in a place like this. This isn't over yet. I'm not giving up, Jill. We still have a chance. Jill, that's it. We've got to find a way out of here. Now!
If you choose to return fire, you can try to take him down firing at the helicopter until it is destroyed, killing Nikolai in the process.
Jill, what happened?
Carlos, the choppers...
I guess this is it then. But I don't want to die in a place like this. This isn't over yet. I'm not giving up, Jill. We still have a chance. I am not going to give up. Jill, that's it. We've got to find a way out of here. Now!
Warning. Missile attack confirmed. Warning. Missile attack confirmed. Emergency level D. All personnel evacuate immediately.
If you don't have the means to fight back and Nikolai runs out of ammo, Nikolai will just fly away. If you don't choose anything, Jill will take a rocket to the face, causing damage, and you have to fight Nikolai. As you can see, this heavily alters the ending you get. Either Nikolai survives or he dies. It's all up to you. The last life selection event happens after you think you have given the final blow to Nemesis. Nemesis still crawls towards Jill. Here, you get to make your final choice. You either get to exterminate the monster or ignore it and evacuate. Exterminating him should be your top priority if you are not trying to go for world record. This guy has chased you for the entirety of the game, killed off the biggest coward Brett. Well, even though, if he wouldn't have been a coward, Resident Evil 1 and Umbrella schemes maybe would have never been discovered, and also he comes back in and at the end. But yeah, Nemi made you fear for your life for the entirety of the game. You kill him, and Jill gives her most iconic line.
badass to the max. The other option has you just run for the exit, so Nemi either dies to his injuries or the nuke, presumably. If neither decision is made, Nemi Voorhees will land his poison attack one last time, poisoning Jill before he succumbs to his injuries. A note, time doesn't stand still during Jill exterminating him. If the missile is close to hitting Raccoon City during the cutscene, after the cutscene has played, the game will end. Once you have beaten the game once, not only do you get the boutique key in the console versions and an epilogue, you also unlock a new game mode. On the console versions, you have it available from the get-go, on the PC versions, just like the outfits. And that game mode is called Mercenary. You heard that right, in Resident Evil 1, the replayability came from playing with either Jill or Chris. And there are a variety of different encounters and endings depending on the paths and decisions you take. For Resi 2, it was the same case, not only with Leon and Claire differing from one another, but as well with the B scenarios and unlockable challenges like Hunk and Tofu. In Resi 3, if the built-in randomization, different ways of running the game, challenges, epilogues, and life selection events aren't enough for you, Mercenaries gives you another incentive of constantly replaying Mercenaries, as Mercenaries helps you fine-tune your gameplay, and playing it also gives you rewards for the main game. The premise of the game is that Brian Irons, the police chief, has implanted a bomb in the mercenary of your choosing. You have 2 minutes to make your way from the cable car to the safe room in the warehouse. There are multiple ways of gaining time, as well as certain checkpoints that reward you with time, as well as survivors that, if you manage to save them, also give you time and items. Each character starts with a different loadout and are thus sorta categorized in difficulty, with Mikhail being the easiest, given that he starts with the Benelli, the Magnum, and a rocket launcher, which is great for dealing with the Nemis you encounter here, as well as 21 shotgun shells, 18 Magnum bullets, and a mixed herb. Next on the line is intermediate difficulty with Carlos, who starts off with his signature assault rifle, an Eagle 6.0, 90 handgun bullets, and 3 mixed herbs. The hardest task poses Nikolai, who is only equipped with a Sig Pro, effectively the samurai edge, a combat knife, a blue herb, for some reason, and 3 first aid sprays. Every time you complete a run or die, at the end, you get a grade and money. The money can be saved to buy up to 4 different items that you can use in the main game. An assault rifle with unlimited ammo, which costs you $2,000. A Gatling gun with unlimited ammo, which is $3,000. The rocket launcher with unlimited ammo comes in at $4,000. And unlimited ammo for all weapons costs a whopping $9,999. The reason as to why Mercenaries is the best mode to refine and tweak your gameplay is that every action gives you a time bonus. Killing enemies gives you time, dodging gives you time, killing multiple zombies at once gives you time, and giving the character you choose, it also forces you to choose quickly which routes you take and which weapon is best for the situation you are facing. Mercenaries, however, doesn't have a built-in randomizer, as in every playthrough you will face the same number and type of monsters in every location. The only difference is in the HP of those enemies. Mercenaries is quick, it's diverse, and has a lot of replayability, and as mentioned, with the unlockables you can unlock, so it makes sense to constantly give it a shot. Bars. And given that you can just jump in, give it a shot, and if you die after the reward screen, you can just go again, makes it a nice little side game. It's also cool that you can take control of Mikhail and Nikolai in this mode. The main point is obviously to try to get the highest score possible by chaining together kills, activating every checkpoint for extra time, as well as rescuing civilians who, besides add time to your counter, also gives you an item drop like ammo whenever you manage to save them. Mercenaries is extremely popular in the RE community, and you probably knew that this was coming, but obviously it has to be addressed. In the RE3 remake, they didn't add Mercenaries, but gave us Resident Evil Resistance instead.
What the fuck were they thinking?
the game is so ahead of its time that it has a built-in randomizer. That goes for weapons, gunpowders, and puzzles. Aside from some puzzles, most puzzles have multiple different set solutions. Not only that, but if you happen to die and load your game, it also changes the solutions to puzzles, which means that apparently puzzles are not tied to a specific seed that is loaded up whenever you start a fresh game. More on the randomized item location. Sometimes those items are in different spots, like the pile of gunpowders that can either be in the restaurant, the gas station, the power plant, or at the Umbrella research facility. Either you have all of the gunpowders on one spot, usually the A gunpowders, or you have them strewn about, like the batch of A in the restaurant, the batch of B in the power station, or all of them in the Umbrella facility. In terms of enemy randomization, sometimes you have dogs bursting through the glasses of a shop, other times it's crows. Sometimes you have drain demos spawning in the waste disposal facility or in front of the sales office. Sometimes they are swapped with brainsuckers, spoders, etc. Sometimes the layout of zombies is completely altered and so on. So literally every run can be an entirely different scenario and you have to adapt and manage your inventory accordingly. Resident Evil 3 has a bunch of hidden cutscenes, as I would like to call them, which don't really affect anything story-wise, but give like some nice little background information on certain characters. For instance, one of those hidden cutscenes is when you have not all, but one or two parts of the cable car and you go back to the cable car to put these parts in. You trigger a cutscene of Mikhail fending off a horde, showing just how much of a badass fighter he is. Even in his severely wounded state, he refuses to rest and let others do the job. A true hero indeed.
Don't come any closer!
Mikhail, do you have some kind of death wish?
My people, they were wiped out by these monsters. I can't stop just because I'm wounded.
But can't you see those monsters are also the victims of Umbrella?
Are you accusing me of taking it out on them? You don't seem to understand something. We're not really involved with the company. There's no reason for any of us to take responsibility for this mess.
I know that. And right now that's the only reason why I'm trying to cooperate with you.
Sorry. I feel so useless.
Don't. You fought hard and have the wounds to prove it.
But I'm still alive. My men aren't.
Don't think about that now. Just rest.
Don't come any closer!
But that's not all. If you have cleared the game multiple times, you have a variety of different costumes to unlock for Jill. At least for the PS1 version, when you boot up the PC version for the first time, you have all of them unlocked from the get-go. These reach from the classic RE1 skin to Regina from Dino Crisis, to a police skin, all the way to more wacky skins like the disco outfit. Furthermore, there are 8 epilogues you can unlock, each featuring a different character and what they are up to. These feature, obviously Jill, Chris, Barry, Leon, Claire, Sherry, Ada, and Hunk. Hunk seems to have left quite an impression on people, and for good reason. Oh, and one fun little bit of information. Since I live in Germany, back then when I played the game, I played the German version. Looking back at it, I couldn't go back to it. The blood that the zombies spill is silver. When you kill a zombie, they blink and disappear, and there are no headshots. AKA, you can absolutely crit with an eagle and one-shot a zombie or one-shot a bunch of zombies by aiming up with a shotgun, but their heads will stay attached. But they will fall to the ground, blink, and disappear. Number 1, way to take out the fun. And number 2, the game is rated R. Why in the fuck would you censor a game that is rated R? Makes no fucking sense. Thanks, Schultz, but I digress. RE3 in Japan, no matter the version, has an easy, hard, and an arranged game mode. Easy and hard or heavy version are the same in terms of being the same no matter the version. However, enemies deal 10 less damage, which is equal to an extra bite before going into caution. And Nemesis also has minus 100 HP. Originally 900, brought back down to 800. The arranged mode is the USA version, where enemies deal that extra 10 damage and Nemesis has the plus 100 HP. I'm pretty sure other enemies might have a bit extra health too, considering Nemesis does, but I'm not sure entirely. Now, if you are as obsessed with RE3 as I am, you obviously check out some of the big guys like Bawkbasoup and WolfDNC, especially the latter, with RE3 being his favorite. He has played probably every RE3 mod in existence and has pretty much perfected RE3. Most of the stuff that I mentioned here I have discovered through him, so shoutouts to WolfDNC. You are probably aware of the shutters in the alley before the bar in the beginning. You get access to the contents of this a bit later in the game when you acquire the regular crank. Behind these shutters you find 3 stacks of grenade rounds. What if I tell you that you can get these grenade rounds in the very beginning of the game? Here's how it goes. Stand in the corner like this and mash the action button. When you hit the right pixel, you will get access to all 3 stacks of grenade rounds. Quick shooting, as the name implies, is shooting the weapon faster than the game normally allows you to. Usually, if you want to fire a weapon, you hold down R1 to aim at a target and then hold down X to shoot. There is a way for you to shoot faster, and it goes as follows. As soon as you fire the first shot, hold down the X button to shoot and then rapidly tap the R1 button. This will cause Jill or Carlos to fire their weapon at a higher rate than normally. This comes in handy at certain points in the game, most notably at the Nemi fight at the RPD, if you choose to take them on there, that is. Note that, as you could see in the footage, that if you mess it up, it can effectively cause more harm than good, as Jill exits the ready stance when you happen to mess up. Slide shooting allows you to deal as much damage to all zombies in an area as if you would stand right in front of them. And it works like this. Aim your shotgun down. Let go of the down button. While Jill raises her weapon, press the X button. This causes the shotgun to pretty much shoot off all zombies' legs that are standing in front of you, no matter how close or far away they are from you. Not entirely sure about the damage distribution to other creatures like Drain Demos or Hunters, but to clean out a good amount of zombies and turn them into crawlers or outright killing them with one well-placed pellet is nothing to scoff at. This is also useful when the zombies are a bit more spaced out and you can't get close and personal and give them one pellet to the brain at close range. Buffering is something you frequently see in WolfDNC's streams. Buffering is when a zombie grabs hold of you and you shake them off before they can take a bite out of you and deal damage. The way you perform a buffer is pressing all buttons as soon as a zombie latches onto you. If not done deliberately, it is almost impossible to pull off, as you have to instantly increase your input by a ridiculous amount.
No bite. No bite.
By the time I'm writing this, the game is 23 years old, and there is still stuff I didn't know. And maybe I can blow your mind with this one. You see these
Got him!
lamps in the town?
you can actually shoot them down, and they do a pretty good amount of damage against enemies and most notably Nemi. This also goes for these lamps in the raccoon park. Mostly useless because going here literally serves no purpose, given that there are no items and the enemies you encounter here are either hunters or sliding worms and later on zombies, but still something I didn't know until recently. And the obvious swaying pallet at the construction site. Nemi can chase you here, so you can use this to either land a hit on Nemi or on one of the drain demos or brain suckers. What I also want to address is the different ways to play Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. This was before the time of achievements in video games, so there are no achievements for you to grind, but you can make up your own rules. For clearing, you can go for a 100% run, where you collect all items, all files and all photos throughout the game. You can attempt to achieve an A rank, where you beat the game under a certain amount of time with limited saves and restriction to healing items. You can go for Nemesis %, where you kill Nemesis every time he appears. You can go all bosses, where you kill all bosses as well as Nikolai in the helicopter, or you can do a knife run, or if you are into BDSM, you can do a Nemesis knife % run. Or of course you can speedrun the game, but given the amount of good and bad RNG for puzzles and the fact that the run is pretty much perfected at this point, it is unlikely for any of us normal human beings to show up in the leaderboard. But hey, there are still personal bests. And that's just for the main game. There are also possibilities for different approaches to Mercenaries. In Mercenaries, you can go for a score attack, where you try to get the highest possible high score, Survivor %, where you try to rescue all the hostages, and obviously Speedrun, where you try to get to the destination as fast as possible. And don't forget, you have 3 different characters to choose from, so that's 9 different challenges, basically. Now we get into the nitty-gritty of things. I want to talk about randomizers first. Randomizers are what brought me back to Resident Evil 3 in the last couple of years. I always did a playthrough for Resi 3 on my channel multiple times. In fact, it was my first real playthrough on my channel back in the day. However, I played this game a lot back then, so I think I have seen pretty much everything the game has to offer, but if you play this game with a randomizer, everyone becomes just so much more interesting. Resi 3, or pretty much the entire trilogy, including RE1 Remastered, are the absolute best games for randomizers. I think there is no other game that works more perfect for randomizers than the original Resident Evil franchise. Aside from Pokemon, that game is also perfect for randomizers, now that I think about it. Picking up an herb that turns into an eagle early on in the game, or a health spray that turns into a mine thrower, sign me up. It also incentivizes you to go back to areas you otherwise probably wouldn't go back to, like Dario's trailer, which holds his journal as well as some gunpowders. But as we all know, these gunpowders could potentially be a grenade launcher, a magnum, or some desperately needed first aid sprays. And even then, when we come back, there are zombies in the warehouse. What if the randomizer replaced these zombies with a bunch of tier 2 Nemis? Not only that, but there is also a randomizer out there, link in the description, that lets you randomize items as well as enemies and, which is just amazing, NPCs and voice lines, making for hilarious conversations as well as some interesting moments where Nemesis takes on the role of Nikolai in the confrontation in the corridor towards the end of the game.
Do you really think the master would tell his dogs why they have to retrieve the stick he just threw?
Nikolai? Are you sure about that?
What? That's awesome.
Umbrella is the reason why this mess began.
Hey, are you okay? Hey, what's going on in the back? I'm not giving up, Jill. We still have a chance.
Supreme. I didn't know Nemi was also one of the possible NPCs, because that never happened so far. That's hilarious. I love that. It's still Nemi? Nemi on Nemi violence? Aww, Taro.
Another guinea pig was still alive.
That was kinda on point.
That's great. Except I have no intention of contributing to your retirement fund.
I was about to say.
Don't make me do this, Murphy. I don't want to shoot you.
But I mean,
Fine.
you're a little bit late on that.
Let's go over our plan.
You mean the guy who shot you?
That's the plan?
Sorry about your daughter, but there isn't gonna be any rescue.
Daughter, I guess, gender fluid. Gotcha.
They must have sniffed us out. They know we're here.
You mean me?
I woke up to the sound of falling rain.
Writing a poem? Okay, don't mind it, dude.
Happened.
Listen, if you want answers about Umbrella, you're asking the wrong guy.
Was it Hanky? What the fuck?
I'm still alive.
Yes, apparently.
Men aren't.
No, I'm sorry. I guess this is it then. But I don't want to die in a place like this.
Okay.
We're moving to the clock tower area, which is the designated landing zone for the extraction chopper.
But he was still conscious, wasn't he?
The clock tower?
Given that any item can spawn almost anything without the risk of soft-locking you, randomizers extend the replayability to infinity. I have played the randomizer for Resident Evil 3 several times on my channel, and so far there is no sign of me stopping anytime soon.
Come on. So we're just gonna skip the park. Okay. Let's skip the park then. Cut content, you know? Just like in the remake.
Aside from that, the modding community for this game is insanely passionate and active. The Sourcenext version of the game is a mod for the PC version. The problem with RE3 being a console to PC port is that you have a couple of issues, such as not being able to bind controls to your controller properly or the lack of an actual graphics setting. The Sourcenext version launches before the actual game. It gives you the option to bind any key to any desired key on your gamepad if you choose to play with one. The main thing though is that it also upscales the backgrounds as well as the player models, giving everything a more clean look and making everything feel more HD. It also gives you the option to get more favorable RNG for puzzles, remove door opening sequences entirely, name the outfits to something that fits, and other options. And speaking of HD, the HD upscale mod also exists for the GameCube version of the game called Resident Evil 3 Seamless HD Project, which also features enhanced 60 FPS movie scenes. I probably wouldn't play this because I don't own a GameCube, and given that it is a mod for the GameCube version, there is no option to skip the opening door sequences like in the PC version, but the level of detail and how polished this looks is really stunning. Now, before I actually cover the mods, I just want to give a big shout out to I'm kidding. This video isn't sponsored. I want to give a big shout out to WolfDNC. All of these mods are so hard to play, that it would be impossible for me to play them myself and show you any footage of that. So every footage for any mod that you see here is provided by WolfDNC. I got his approval to use his clips. Link is gonna be in the description. Check him out on Twitch and check him out on YouTube as well. And also on Twitter, give him a shout out. Thanks again, WolfDNC. When it comes to gameplay altering mods, usually RE3 mods are so hard, that it is almost impossible for any normal human being to actually enjoy/complete one. However, there is a mod for the PS1 version of the game called Dark Infection, made by Biohazard España. Don't worry, the game is entirely in English, so all of us unintellectuals can understand what's going on. It obviously alters the weapon locations as well as items, makes some doors connect to different areas, blocks up some paths, and also changes the files you find throughout the game. There is also this zombie in the evidence room. You see the number on the back of his shirt? That is the combination for the locker that holds the RPD key. Fucking clever. And that's only in the first 30 minutes of the game. Gameplay-wise, the mod also auto-includes quick shooting, so for anyone that is struggling with that, we can just hold down aim and fire and we automatically quick shoot. There is also a fair amount of health and ammo spawns, so it seems to be a doable RE3 mod and probably my favorite one. Music? pickup sounds, item locations, recolors for enemies, a huge sprint boost for zombies, different skins, and you have a section where you play as Brad after you encounter him in the bar, showing you how he ends up in the RPD, as well as Nikolai after you encounter him in the cable car for the first time, which is extremely cool because it shows the perspective of the characters you don't see when you make your way through the game. Definitely a fun and challenging mod, but nothing to start out your career in playing RE3 mods, as it is a lot more difficult than the main game. Probably the absolute best mod that has ever been created for Resident Evil 3. Despite it altering the game and giving you an entirely new experience, they also changed the gameplay mechanics, aka the dodge mechanic is now intuitive. As you can see here, with the press of a button combination, you can dictate which direction you want to dodge to. Not only does this give you actual control over the dodge mechanic, it also makes it more consistent and less dependent on RNG. I don't want to spoil it too much, just try the mod out for yourself. You will be surprised when you see how much they have changed with this mod. It's truly amazing. And if the mod happens to be too hard, pause, and trust me, it does get hard, pause. You can always check out WolfDNC. Just as a side note, one of the dreams of the developer of Lord of Necropolis was being able to play as Nemesis, and guess what he is currently working on?
Are you crazy? You could have barbecued both of us.
Yes, he is currently working on updating the mod so you are able to play as Nemesis trying to kill Jill. He seems like he has a good amount of work done already. The update videos are consistent, so maybe we'll soon be able to play through Resident Evil 3 as Nemesis himself. Absolutely breathtaking.
Now, this has to be addressed. The Resident Evil 3 Remake. The reason why me and many others in the Resident Evil community think that the remake is complete trash is for numerous reasons. Now, Bawkbasoup mentioned it the best. If you list up all the things that you have in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis and compare it to what you have in the remake, you would actually think that the original Resident Evil 3 is the remake, and I can show you how that makes sense.
So stuff that Resident Evil 3 Nemesis has. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis has the Gravedigger, a free explorable city, the remake is way too linear, enhanced ammunition, the Clock Tower, Raccoon Park, the Raccoon Press building, life selection feature, 10 different unlockable costumes, one in the remake, a built-in randomizer, puzzles, with most of them also being randomized, different cutscenes, depending on life selections or just where you happen to go first. Mercenaries. Resident Evil 3 Remake has Resistance, and I'm not kidding. I had to Google the name because I forgot the name of the game. And sure, you might enjoy Resistance for a couple of minutes as I did, but cutting Mercenaries for a cheap Dead by Daylight clone that at the time of writing this, has 35 players at a 24-hour peak and averages between 70 to 80 peak players per month, goes to show you how much of a great idea it was to cut out Mercenaries in favor of Resistance. And now that Nemesis and Wesker, as well as Jill, Leon, Claire, Rebecca and Ada made their way to DBD, I guess it's safe to say that Resistance was in fact a failure. Let alone that they announced RE Verse for 2022, but I digress.
The thing is, yes, for a one-time playthrough, maybe 2 times, the remake is extremely good. The cutscenes may be a bit long, but they don't hinder the experience too much. Tyrell is a more prominent character, and his death is actually quite sad. He shows a lot of character in this one.
The hospital segment with Carlos is very creepy, as is the first encounter with a hunter, and they also tie in Resi 3 with Resident Evil 3, showing how Marvin got bitten, which was due to a zombified Brad. And it also shows you why the RPD was as damaged as it was in the RE2 remake, because Carlos came through before. But compared to the classic Resident Evil 3, just from the stuff that I mentioned earlier, they cut so much stuff. Life selection, enhanced ammo, enemies, the freedom to roam through the city, going different places, having different encounters, all of this is missing. The problem is that they had so much potential to deliver a refined Resident Evil 3 with amazing graphics and modern gameplay. A Raccoon City in shambles that is up for you to explore, but maybe due to time constraints they went another route and cut content after content, making you go one path without any chance of deciding to go to other areas first. You have one path and you have to stick to it. And also, just from the look of things, what is cooler? Solid Snake Nemesis or Werewolf Nemesis? I have my personal favorite. Hashtag not my Nemi.
On another note, the original game had immense replayability due to item swaps and puzzles being randomized. You have 2 fucking puzzles in the entire game, and they are laughably easy and obviously not randomized. What? The only replayability in the remake is doing achievements, beating higher difficulties, and some unlockables. There are certain items you can unlock, which you can then put in your inventory that, for instance, boost up the damage of one of your weapons. But here's the issue. In terms of costumes, for instance, in the RE2 remake, if you also bought the DLC, including the normal outfit, you have 7 different costumes to choose from. What about RE3? Well, I bought the early access version, which gives you not the original, but a version of the original outfit, because remember, Jill is wearing a skirt in the original RE3 and not shorts. But aside from that, you have 3. The original, the DLC one, and the original RE1 costume for Jill. 3.
And one more thing. The way Nemi is introduced in the remake is complete garbage. He shows up literally in the first 2 minutes or so by bursting into Jill's apartment. The way they set him up in the original with Brad saying he is coming after STARS members is subtle and creepy. Let alone, you haven't seen what Brad is talking about yet, but by the way Brad says it and the music that plays along it just sends shivers down your spine.
Listen, he's coming for us. We're both gonna die.
What are you saying?
You'll see. He's after STARS members. There's no escape.
And the way they toy with you with Nemi throughout the game. As I mentioned in the beginning, he can't get into the RPD, so you think that he is limited to the area you encounter him, ergo, go through a door and he won't be a problem anymore. Then, suddenly, when you make your way out of the RPD, he actually chases you through multiple rooms. And just when you figured out that he only comes after you when you can't see the door you came through, the clock tower segment happens, where he breaks down a door that connects the rooms. It's such a great way of not only putting stress on Jill, but also outsmarting the player. As I said, he only does this once when you leave the clock tower. only makes you question what kind of curveball he throws the next time you encounter him. And where Tyrell gets a chance to shine in the remake, other characters like Dario, who you can encounter after the RPD, who also left a diary behind, get chopped up with 1 to 2 voice lines and are then never to be seen and encountered again. But that's a topic for a separate video in the future, probably.
As you can see, this is the biggest project I have ever done on my channel so far, and that's for the sole reason because I absolutely love this game. Sure, Resident Evil 2 might have more content. You have the Claire and Leon scenarios that differ from each other, you have Tofu and Hunk, and for Leon and Claire you also have the B scenarios. But in terms of gameplay depth, atmosphere, puzzles, engagement and fun, Resident Evil 3 just takes the cake for me. It emphasizes the strengths of Resident Evil 2 and just improves upon it. From general playthroughs to mods and randomizers, there is a lot of stuff to explore. And as I said, after 23 years, I just recently discovered that you can shoot down the lamps in Raccoon Park and that there is an ingredient hidden in the garbage here, and how to trigger certain events correctly. If you want more backstory for Resident Evil 3, I can highly recommend this book by S.D. Perry. There is one for every major Resident Evil release, even Taliban Cove, which explains what happens between 2 and 3, and it also gives some background about Nikolai and how he is able to always be one step ahead of us. Which I won't go into, make sure to check that out yourself. Oh, and it also explains why Jill bursts through that apartment thing in the beginning of the game. And there is also a board game for Resident Evil 3, featuring the beginning and the city portion, as well as the rest of the game. There's also one for Resident Evil 1 and 2 as well. That's it for this video, folks. Huge thanks for checking it out. I have put a lot of work into the script, into editing and cutting and playing to get all of the footage. So I would love it if you would thumbs up the video if you enjoyed it. And also leave a comment about what you think about Resident Evil 3. Like, what are your favorite parts? What is lackluster? Just everything. Let me know in the comments. I love discussing Resident Evil 3 and especially Resident Evil 3 with people. Again, huge thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. This has been a video about my #1 favorite game of all time, Resident Evil 3. Nemesis.